So now I'm going to talk a bit more about cognitive search, which is in a brand new, it's still in preview service from Microsoft and I'm going to share with you guys quite an interesting scenario on this one. So you probably didn't think when you were coming to a presentation today that you would see this slide, which is John F. Kennedy. So for those of you who don't know, John F. Kennedy, who was the president of the United States, and he was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. And you might be wondering, why is Peter talking about this in this presentation? Well, shortly after the murder, the US prosecutor's office that was in the US at the time, because they promised that all documents would be released relating to the case. Because for those of you who don't follow the internet so much, you might have seen at the time that there were many people throwing theories around saying that the assassination was they were speculating about all kinds of different things that were happening. So in this case, they wanted to have full transparency and release all of the documentation about the case. But the important thing to remember here is this is 1963, so not everyone was using a computer or saving things to Word or so on. So this is to kind of show you that very recently, so in November, the first batch of handwritten typed notes was released relating to the case, and this was about 34,000 documents that were released in the first batch that were released by the FBI and CIA. And just to give you an example, this guy, my friend here, that's about double his height, so around 12 feet tall if you stacked each piece of paper on top of each other. Just to give you an idea, they recently released the second batch, which was 3 times the size of that first batch. But the question then is, okay, Peter's talking about lots of batches of documents that were from the JFK period. What's all this got to do with AI? So the question that you need to ask yourself is, if you want to take all those 34,000 documents and compare them and draw out a new credible reason as to why JFK was assassinated, then how are you going to do that? Well, that's why you then would use something like the JFK files so that we can really find the truth. So I'm going to talk you guys through this. It's for me, this is a super interesting example that I want to show you, and I'm really interested to know more questions on this at the end of the presentation. So what was basically done was all of those documents that we just talked about whilst I'm transitioning windows. I'll just catch up with you. So what was done was all of those documents, 33,000 documents, were scanned using a scanner in the office and put into the cloud so that they were stored as let's just say pictures or visual documents. And then what we did was we applied our cognitive search solution to them, which I can talk a bit more about later on in this presentation if necessary. I'm just checking that you guys can see my screen perfectly well. Very good. And what this then enabled us to do was to take all of that documentation there and put it here into a system that you can see here is a nice web page, so that we can now go through all of that first stack of information and start to find information related to it. So the first thing I want to do is, like, I think many of you might think of, when you think of the JFK assassination, you might think of Harvey Oswald, so who was the person who was convicted of his assassination. So I'm just going to type in Oswald into here. So now all of a sudden you see that there's some search results coming on the page here. There are, and you can see there's different words that are associated in these different documents. There's a picture up here. There's some text over here. There's something that says GP Floor, Oswald, so on and so on. So the thing here is that this it might just look like a page of search results, but the question is how does it know that Oswald is on these pieces of information that we're looking at here? So this is actually using a range of different cognitive services or AI-based services that are available across a lot of different companies, but something that we provide as well. And you can then click on this document here, and you can see that this is the Oswald case. The attached document of this date indicates that Lieutenant Colonel was attached to the Soviet embassy in New Delhi no further actions. So this seems like quite a document that's maybe not so interesting, but it just shows you that it did have something relating to Lee Harvey Oswald in it. The next one is a picture. So you're like, how do we know that's a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald? So, because it was just loaded in like a picture like this. And basically what the system has done is it's taken this image here, it's compared this image against the Bing, for those of you who use Bing, which is a search engine from Microsoft, it's using the search engine history there to look at other images that people have used to see who they are, and it's then recognized that this is a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald posing for the camera with a wall person text sign posing New Orleans, LA 112723. So it's not just drawn out the fact that it's a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald, but it's also recognized the text that's on his on this board in front of him. But this is all nice. This is certainly nice. But then you start thinking, okay, what's this GP Floor thing about? So then we'll open this document and have a look. And if you see GP Floor here, if I hover over the word, I'm just going to go back a screen. So if I hover over the screen here, it's known as what's called a CIA cryptonym. So what's a CIA cryptonym? I'm just going to go straight to Google and show you guys so that we can have a look. So let's have a look, CIA cryptonym. So I can then go to this page here, maryfell.org. And if I go to the G section here, I can see that GP Floor was a code word that the CIA used for Lee Harvey Oswald. And it was used as a slug to describe the contents of the memo. So it was basically a common phrase that was used to describe who Lee Harvey Oswald. But in here, I've only typed in Oswald, but it's then detected based on the connections that are made in the background of this system that this is the same person. So if you imagine you're a detective, this is really helping you here to really understand and get behind the information about the Lee Harvey Oswald case. But now I start thinking, okay, this is good. I can see that this is Lee Harvey Oswald. I can look through these different documents here, but I want to know, how is he connected to other people? So I can then, and what are the connections that are made within the data? So if I click this handy little tool here, I can see that there's Lee Harvey Oswald here. I hope that's working well for you guys as you can see it. And you can see that Oswald is connected to Lee Harvey. It's connected to different things. And within here, there's a specific person that he's connected to called Duran, Sylvia Duran. So I want to find out about her. So I'm going to click here on her name, but it doesn't work. So I'm going to type it in up here instead. Sylvia, oops, sorry. So now I'm going to have a look here, and I'm going to see, I want to explore who Sylvia Duran is. And I basically come in here into this document just here. Sorry, that's the wrong one. This one up here. And this is actually a handwritten document here, a signed statement of Sylvia Duran interrogation by the Mexican government. It's what it says up here. So what it turned out was that, for those of you who are interested who Sylvia Duran is, she was actually connected to, she was Oswald's connection to the Russian KGB in Cuba. So you could then ask yourself, how are the KGB connected? So this is kind of interesting. Where are we going here? So it seems like there's a connection here between Sylvia Duran and what was going on with the KGB by finding that information. So I'm going to now have a look at the KGB. For those of you who didn't know, there was quite a lot of discussion around how the KGB was involved in this particular case. And I can now see that there's two main connections to the KGB. And I'm wondering, who's this Nosenko character? And I would then have a quick look. Nosenko. Wow, lots of lots of information here about Nosenko, but he was actually someone who was connected to the KGB, who was a person of interest for quite a long time during the investigation that was going on. So just to kind of take a step back from what I've been showing you here and why this is interesting and important, is that imagine for a second you're an educational institution, for example, like the Zigaret Business School, and you have huge amounts of data that are just sitting around on people's computers or hard drives or so on, or if you're a library with multiple books, and you might want to have a moment in time where all of that data, you want to make it digital, but you want to make it searchable as well to discover or understand the links or connections between different things. And a tool or an AI service like this can very quickly take your data, whether that be pictures, whether it be handwritten notes, whether it be, just a name tag that would be on my neck here, posing in front of the picture. These can all be different things that could happen where you want to use that data and see where the links and connections are between it. And I think this is an example of AI in a very different scenario that really shows how these kind of services can not just help to take data, but to really make it usable and to do something new with it. So with that demo, that brings actually my presentation to the end, because I wanted to end in a very energetic way with that demonstration. I would now